Welcome to the Big Book Roundtable and the RICO 12 family of recovery resources targeted at people from all backgrounds, faiths, and places dealing with addictions of all varieties. RICO 12 is also a resource for the loved ones of addicts. My name is Justin B. I'm a child of an all-powerful and all-loving God and a multidisciplinary addict living in the miraculous state of recovery, and I'm blessed to be the moderator of this roundtable. I'm joined by David G. and Nikki M., and we are striving to live in this same state of miraculous recovery, the 12 steps. In this conversation, in this roundtable, we go line by line, paragraph by paragraph through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and really do some swimming through this to gain different perspectives, gain more information, and be able to share our experience, strength, and hope with those in the listening audience. If you ever want to reach out and learn a little bit about what each of us are doing, in the show notes, there's information that you can learn more about Nikki and more about David. But now let's get a little bit from them each about what's going on in their lives. David, why don't you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what's going on right now?
Thank you, Justin. My name is David G. I am an alcoholic and an addict of many sorts. Blessed to have been in recovery for almost 30 years now. Fellowship of AA and SA as well. Really grateful to be here today with you two. As always, it's always good to come and study the book that I love so much. And this is the Thanksgiving holiday. This is the day before Thanksgiving, so there's a lot going on. I have a granddaughter here who is 16 years old now, who has never seen me drunk, high, or even crazy for that matter. Well, maybe a little, but not much. And so anyway, it's just a great time with family and friends, and most of all, a loving God that I've found through this process, the Big Book. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, David. I'm sure grateful to be able to sit with you three at this time around Thanksgiving, and I'm grateful that you're willing to take and sacrifice a little bit of time to make this happen. Nikki, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what's going on in your life.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Nikki M., and I'm a grateful member of many fellowships, and I love to brag about my intelligent agent spearhead status. That's what the book says I am. And it's a Wednesday, and I don't eat on Wednesdays. I stop eating on Tuesday nights, and I refeed again on Thursdays. So I'm just a little rangy right now. As I said to you when I got on, I'm still in my Noodle with Nikki bathrobe. I haven't even, it's 6 p.m. or whatever time it is here, 5 p.m. And I'm just so grateful because I spend Wednesdays with God. I sponsored 2 newcomers in step 1. So I did 2 thorough step 1s today. And now I'm here with you. And I said, I'm so tired, but you know what? I'm already feeling the power and the energy just by introducing myself with you guys. I'm getting excited.
Love it. Thank you, Nikki. And I want to share real quick a little bit about my last couple of days. I have been able to experience the promises of recovery and the serenity that comes through that through chaos. Yesterday, for the first time in my whole life, I missed a flight. I've never missed any sort of scheduled departure time, whether it be car, bus, train, plane. And yesterday I missed a flight for the first time in my life, and yet I maintained serenity throughout the day, through all the chaos that happened from it. And I can only attribute that to the principles of recovery and relying on a power much greater than myself to do things that I cannot do myself. And I'm really grateful to be here with you two and having this conversation. Today, we are going to continue. We're going to continue in Bill's story where we left off reading last week. We'll start on page 5, where it's where we start off with gradually things got worse, about halfway down the page in your 4th edition of the Big Book. So everybody out there, grab your Big Book, pen, pencil, highlighter, whatever, follow along. And we're going to get into this. We're reading about a page through page 6, and we'll finish up there. And then we'll get into some conversation on this. All right, here we go. Gradually, things got worse. The house was taken over by the mortgage holder. My mother-in-law died. My wife and father-in-law became ill. Then I got a promising business opportunity. Stocks were at the low point of 1932, and I had somehow formed a group to buy. I was to share generously in the profits. Then I went on a prodigious bender, and the chance vanished. I woke up. This had to be stopped. I saw I could not take so much as one drink. I was through forever. Before then, I had written lots of sweet promises, but my wife happily observed that this time I meant business, and so I did. Shortly afterward, I came home drunk. There had been no fight. Where had been my high resolve? I simply didn't know. It hadn't even come to mind. Someone had pushed a drink my way, and I had taken it. Was I crazy? I began to wonder, for such an appalling lack of perspective seemed near being just that. Renewing my resolve, I tried again. Some time passed, and confidence began to be replaced by cocksureness. I could laugh at the gin mills. Now I had what it takes. One day I walked into a cafe to telephone. In no time, I was beating on the bar, asking myself how it happened. As the whiskey rose to my head, I told myself I would manage better next time, but I might as well get good and drunk then, and I did. The remorse, horror, and hopelessness of the next morning are unforgettable. The courage to do battle was not there. My brain raced uncontrollably, and there was a terrible sense of impending calamity. I hardly dared cross the street lest I collapse and be run down by an early morning truck, for it was scarcely daylight. An all-night place supplied me with a dozen glasses of ale. My writhing nerves were stilled at last. A morning paper told me the market had gone to hell again. Well, so had I. The market would recover, but I wouldn't. That was a hard thought. Should I kill myself? No, not now. Then a mental fog settled down. Gin would fix that. So 2 bottles and oblivion. And there's so much pain, so much relatability in this here. But I want to get into this a little bit and ask you, David, tell us a little bit of some of the highlights or things that we want to focus on here, that you want to focus on here and bring to the surface, and why.
Happy to, Justin. Thank you. And thank you, everybody in the listening audience. This is such a unique story. And for years, it's argued in the rooms. You know, Bill had a big ego. That's why his story is always in the front of the book. And Dr. Bob's isn't, and this and that. But, you know, as I read and study and dissect the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, I see that Dr. Bob still suffered with the obsession 4 years after being sober. Here's a man who worked the process of the book and recovered immediately. So if I'm going to read a story, I'm probably going to want to read one about the man who recovered immediately versus the one who struggled in recovery, if I'm a brand new man in here. So as the story reads, you know, Bill is in a very bad place in his life. And what you started out there was said that gradually things got worse, and they always do. Any life run on self-will can hardly be a success, ever. Gradually, things will always get worse. And notice how it's gradual. The ego doesn't always come quickly. Sometimes it comes very gradual. I know that I've went through some emotional turmoil in sobriety, being apart from the process, even after working the steps. And gradually things would get worse. Slowly, self would begin to come in and take over my emotions again. Fears would start to crop up. And by me not using the 10th step as is outlined in our big book, then I would, I would slowly begin to go back to sleep. And it doesn't always mean that we're going to get drunk or whatever it is that we do, but we're going to suffer emotionally. I know in my case. So he says the house was taken over by the mortgage holder. The mother-in-law died. My wife and father-in-law became very ill. Bill was in a very bad place right here. He just is. So he gets a promising business opportunity. And I think we talked about this some in the last episode. You know, he'd been so down on his luck. He had formed a group to buy, and he was starting to try to build himself back up because Bill sees that he cannot so much as take one drink. He says that in the last paragraph, the last sentence of the paragraph just before the one you started reading today. We can't always see the true from the false. And at that point, he could not see it. But now he's formed a group to buy. Things are looking good. They hold a big meeting. You know, Bill's in this circle. They're passing around a jug of Jersey Lightning. He passes it up. No, I'm not drinking. No, I'm not drinking. And about the third or fourth time that jug went around his mind, told him, hey, we've never had Jersey Lightning. We ought to check this out. And just that thought became an action. Because again, he didn't have the disciplines of step 10 at that time in his life. He took a drink, and what he says here, I was to share generously in the profit. Well, there's a lot of things we was to share generously in, but that didn't happen. And so Bill goes on this prodigious bender and the chance vanishes. So, but this is very important to me here. I woke up, this had to be sought. I saw that I could not so much as take one drink. And anytime I see that, now I'm able to see the true instead of the false. Now, in the upper paragraph, he couldn't see that, but here he can. But again, self is going to blind him. And this is what happens. It doesn't matter how many times we bottom out and take step one with no solution. We're always going to drink, use, whatever it is. Again, we just are. And so this is what happens. He comes home drunk. There's been no fight. There's no high resolve. And look at what he said. It hadn't even come to mind. I mean, we're completely blinded by this. Someone pushes a drink my way. He says, I take it. Was I crazy? I begin to wonder. Renewing, I resolve my resolve. I try again. And here comes self again. You see it. Confidence begin to be replaced by cocksureness. It's so crazy how I can be so beaten. And just in an instant, I feel this way again. Now I got what it takes. So one day he walks into a cafe and to use the telephone, and in no time he's beating on the bar, asking himself how it happened. As the whiskey rose to his head, he told himself, all of this stuff. But right here is really the beginning of the first step. Now, this isn't where he actually takes the first step. This is on page 8. But here's a good description of what that looks like. The remorse, horror, and hopelessness of the next morning are unforgettable. The courage to do battle is not there. I don't know about anybody else, but I've felt that way so many times whenever I've been beaten down by self. I'm scared to death. I don't even want to go outside. Like he says, I'll love to get run over by a truck, and at the end of it, he says this, well, 2 bottles of gin in oblivion. That'll fix it. And that's a bad place to be. But the good news about all of this, and at least in my life, not only in 1994, but in 2019 too, whenever I came into SA, I didn't realize that at this time when all of this is going on, that's when I need to pray harder than I've ever prayed, because my higher power is closer to me than he's ever been. Because at this point, I'm beat, and I don't have anywhere else to turn. I keep turning to whiskey and going to this and that, but that stuff's not working anymore. It's just not working. So God is about to do a miraculous miracle in this man's life, the same way that he has done in ours. So this is a great story, and it's unfolding. It's in the next few episodes. It's going to be just amazing what begins to happen. We see how self-centeredness is the destruction of it takes place here, how he begins to be lifted up and how he starts to walk next to a higher power and lays out a solution for millions of us who have followed it, have been able not only to get sober, but to recover. So thank you for asking me to share on this part of the book, Justin.
Thank you, David, for those insights and the history on that. Nikki, tell us a little bit about some of the things that are meaningful to you and your experience, strength, and hope from this reading.
Well, thank you so much, guys. David, I just love to hear both of you and just the miracles that are happening, that we can all show up today. I know David's got a little cold, you with your flight, that would eat my soul. And I'm here ready to go and excited, because gradually things got worse. Well, they will get worse if I don't stay in this program. There's a reminder right there. I'm in the grip of a progressive disease. Gradually, progressive disease line out. The house was taken. That relates to me. I couldn't work because I'm a real hardcore love and sex addict, and I like to take people hostage at my work. So I had to separate. They said requires hospitalization. I had to I couldn't work because I'm sleeping with a coworker, and I could lose my mortgage because I'm the breadwinner of my house. So again, we're seeing the hand of God. I'm seeing the hand of God all along. If I look back, God's always been there. Same thing with Bill W. The hand of God is always there. The promising opportunity. There's always promising opportunity in my life. God is always there. But while I'm in my addiction, my line out on that first paragraph, I'm hurting everyone around me. Line out, tornado, page 82. I like to destroy everyone around me. And then, where David took us, I woke up. This is just the twisted thinking. This has to be stopped. My willpower won't work. I've lost the power of choice. The sweet promises, those are all human aids. I have no control. I'm out of control because I have no choice. And then here where it says, where Bill goes like, was I crazy? My line out is like, I am sick. Like I'm sick. And this is really what I learned in Al-Anon, where it says my lack of perception, it says my appalling lack of perspective. My appalling lack of perspective. My line out says, I have a disease of perception. See, I have a real disease of perception. What does that mean? I can't use my senses to be aware. I don't have discernment. Perception or perspective is the act or the faculty of apprehending by means of the senses or mind. I cannot do that. My mind does not work. Now we're on page 6 where it says, now I have what it takes. That's my ego. That's my false pride. It's going to be better next time. I'm going to do it better. I love this. Manage better next time. Line out lies. Because this is what we're talking about. We read it in the doctor's opinion. My addict life is my only normal one. I can't differentiate between the true and the false. I'm out of my mind. I've got the restless, irritable, and discontented until I can take a few bites, thoughts, whatever, drinks, smokes, sucks. I want to stay G-rated on here. And then, of course, the remorse, the horror of me waking up in my bed with who the hell is that? With his toupee falling off, but we're not going to get into my 5th step here. Okay, and then here's the thought here. Should I kill myself? That's me. I was going to kill myself. You guys are going to love this. I'm looking right at my guys on my roundtable friends, and it's like, I was going to kill myself because I didn't have a husband by the time I'm 50. Well, I'm 50 and I still don't have a husband, and I'm grateful for everything. Like, I was going to kill myself. I was afraid to do it. I had a set date. If I don't have a husband by this time, I'm going to do it. Thank God I came into the rooms that have a power greater than myself. So I think I'll just end there because, where else do you end except not now? I'm not going to kill myself yet. I haven't hit my rock bottom. And where it says like this, so 2 bottles, 2 men, 2 buffets, two social media accounts, to blot out the consciousness of my existence with whatever the hell I can get my hands on, Justin. That's it.
Thank you, Nikki. Yeah, I just really enjoy getting deeper insights and different angles at this. And I've written a couple of questions one for each of you here to dive a little bit deeper on this topic. David, I'll start with you. The first word we read, or the first sentence, gradually things got worse. And you talked a little bit about this, but how can we take that gradually, slowly, even sober things get worse even when I'm sober? And how can we take that and have some patience with the process? I know that me as an addict, maybe as a human, want the solution right now. I want to be able to have this solution happen right now. Talk to me about patience with self in this process, with emotional sobriety, or even, sober sobriety, and maybe patience with sponsees. Talk to me a little bit about your take or thought on that.
Absolutely, Justin. Step 10 has been a lifesaver in practicing it the way it's outlined here on page 84 of the book. I've really never found any other way to be able to slow down, to take care of me whenever I'm heated with a sponsee or my wife or a coworker or whatever it may be. I really try to practice, what's on page 87 of our book with the pause. We pause when agitated or doubtful, ask for the right thought or ask in action. Anytime I see those 2 words, we ask, that's a prayer, and that's something that, if I practice that faithfully, and I haven't always, but when I do, then I find myself, able to shift to the other side of that. Miraculous transformations and all this stuff all around me doesn't happen. But what happens on the inside of me is I'm not quite as excited as I was. I'm not taking actions based on thoughts. That creates a reality of a lot of confusion for me and others. So I wanted to just mention real quick about the sweet promises that was mentioned here. And my friend Nikki had brought that up as well. And if you don't mind, I'd like to take just a second to throw out some history on this. In the family Bible, was, when Bill passed away, it was found that these were the promises that were written to Lois in those days. And of course, we mean those things with all of our heart at the time. We just don't have the power to carry it out. And so in October 20th of 1928 was the first time that he had ever written a promise to Lois. And it said this: "To my beloved wife that has endured so much, let this stand as evidence of my pledge to you that I have finished with drink forever." On November 22nd, just a little over a month later, 1928, he writes again, "My strength is renewed 1,000-fold in my love for you." In January of 1929, just a few months later, he says, "To tell you once more that I'm finished with it, I love you." And then finally, the last one on September 3rd of 1930, he says, "Finally and for a lifetime, thank God for your love." And so these were the sweet promises that he had written to his wife, as many of us might not have written them, but we've said them and meant it probably with all of our heart at the time, or maybe we didn't. I don't know. I know for me, in 2019, I meant it with all my heart whenever I made promises. And some of those, I haven't always lived up to, but I can tell you that today, that's what's first and foremost in my mind. The person that has suffered the most from my illness, other than myself, has been my wife. And so today it's very important to me that promises are made and promises are kept. And there's just certain things that I do and that I do not do today. So, I kind of went around the question there some, but I wanted to bring that out because I'd failed to do that before. So thank you guys for letting me share today. Glad to be here.
Thanks, David. And it was well worth it to go around that. But thank you for that additional information on the history there, because I think that's really powerful. How many promises have I made? I swear I will never do this again, whether it's to my wife, whether it's to God, whether it's to myself, whether it's to anybody else. I swear I will never do this again. And yet beaten on the counter of the bar again, saying, how did this happen? I've experienced that so many times in my life. All right, Nikki, question for you. And this is based on basically the bottom line in the first paragraph, bottom line on page 5, top of page 6. Renewing resolve, having confidence, managing better next time. These are all positive, can be seen as positive things, trying to make positive action. But why are those things not sufficient to an addict of the hopeless variety like we are here? Why doesn't willpower work in our situation?
Well, that's a great question. My experience, strength, and hope. And remember, everybody, this is all individual. That's what we're doing. We're sharing our experience, strength, and hope. Is that, I am beyond human aid. See, I've been programmed. Let's just go here. I've been programmed by that's what we do. We ask you here. We in page 117, we say we urge you to try our program. So willpower won't work, because the best way to gain control of the most intelligent, powerful species, that's me, David, Justin, and all of you listeners out there, would be to completely divide them from the love within themselves. See, as soon as I'm old enough to begin creating an understanding of who I am, I'm forced into a system that teaches me that everything about me is wrong from a little person. So from a little person, I'm programmed. So I have no power. I'm relying on the teachers, my parents, society, my government. I'm relying on other things. There's no power. And then I have no power because literally, Justin, I have been programmed that I have to look a certain way. I have to be a certain way. I have to act this way, do this way in order to be okay. And I have forgotten. See, that's what's happened here. We have all forgotten that we are intelligent agent spearheads. So the power of choice has come to me now that I'm had a spiritual awakening. See, this is what I love what David shared. He says, when Bill's getting to the end of this on page 6, like, we got to pray harder, more pray. But yes, we have to pray harder, but I need to believe. See, the key word here is I need to believe more. I need to believe that this power will restore me to sanity, will do for me. So my willpower doesn't work because I've been programmed since the minute I came out of my mother's womb. Not that I'm a beautiful, loving child of God, but that I'm number 605-834-572. You know what? I'm not telling you my real social security number or my real social. I have a social insurance number and a social security number, both American and Canadian. Shh, I'm not going to tell it on. But that's what I've been. You know what I mean? I got that stamp right when I'm born. I'm a number. I'm incorporated with a certificate, and now I'm free. See, I tapped a source of power. So I think that's why we keep renewing our old resolve, because again, I said it, I think when we were reading this, is my addict life is my only normal one. I don't know how powerful I am. And people, I'm powerful because I want to tap that power every day. This is serious stuff. And I love what David just said. I'm keeping my promises now. I'm been reborn. So radical, Justin.
So cool to sit around the table with a couple of people who are striving to live this life. Thank you so much. A quick round of takeaways. What's a quick wrap up and takeaway for you, David, from our reading today?
That self-confidence is a wonderful thing as long as it's not replaced by cocksureness, because anytime that happens, then I'm not in the spirit, I'm in self. And so I always want to remember that this process has yielded wonderful confidence in my life. Today, I'm successful in many, many, many areas because I'm dependent on a power greater than self. That's my takeaway. Thank you.
Love it, David. Thanks, Nikki. How about you?
Well, I'll just jump on that with David, is that I have to remember that the only reason I have power is because I followed the exact instructions of this book, because that I take my sincere position every day to abandon myself to this lifestyle real serious. So I am nothing without this power that I tap willingly, honestly, and open-mindedly, with an open mind and with some enthusiasm every day. Remember when we started this podcast, I didn't have any energy. I do now. So that's really my takeaway, is this: open your big book and talk with your fellows about the power, and you light on fire.
Thank you so much. And I think my takeaway today is building on my experience from yesterday with the whole plane, everything getting mixed up, and I'll share more in depth at a different time and place. But it was a day that very easily could have sent me to the bar, with the bar, whether it's the alcoholic bar, the sex bar, whatever it is, sent me to the bar, beating on the table, saying, how did I get here? And then say, well, may as well get good and drunk now, may as well get my money's worth. And because of practicing these principles in my life, I was able to step back when the chaos started and step out of the obsession and away from the craving that would eventually happen and find serenity. And I love this. I do not have to go to the bar when all hell breaks loose in my life. I can go to God. And that's an amazing thing. All right. Thank you so much, both Nikki and David, for joining us here. And thanks to you out in the listening audience. To learn more about what we're doing, check out the show notes. You can learn more about this. If you would like to contribute a little bit to RICO 12 to help us continue these programs that we're doing, please consider doing so. The link is there in the show notes also. Join with us in the fellowship of the Spirit, everybody. Come trudge this adventurous and amazing road of happy destiny with us. Work it. You are worth it.